Hello everyone. Today we are going to see a simple event registration page. So how we can go ahead with the use of simple edit text, radio buttons, checkboxes and a button. And what I want to do over here is that whatever is the data that the user is entering in this edit text and radio buttons and checkboxes, I want to pass the data to the next activity. So for example, if so this is very simple. No, like I haven't checked if the email ID is correct or no or anything. None of the checks are done. This is just for the beginners. Like if I want to pass the data using intent between two activities, how I can do that. So I'm just writing the username as Lena. Say, um, uh, I can just say ln at the rate some gmail.com. I am checking over here. So whenever I'm running, either of only one of the radio buttons should be working at one time. So I'm just selecting over here evening. And if it's about the checkboxes, I should be able to select both the checkboxes. And when I click on register, I am redirected to the next activity which says username is Lena, your email ID is this. You have been registered for the evening session and for both lunch and the networking as well. So this is like how our output is going to look like. So let us go ahead and go ahead with designing this particular app. So I have created a new project over here. Now what did we say? So we require two activities over here. So first I'm going to go and I'm going to create a new activity. I'm going to call this as second activity. I'm also going to go over here and I'm going to create one more XML file. So I'm going to call this as second activity again. Okay. For the second activity, I'm just going to do a little bit of copy paste things. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it over here. I'm going to call this as second activity. I'm going to change the layout ID over here. Here going in code again, I'm going to add a ID and I'm going to call this as second. Here also I'm going to change this to second. So we are done with the basic setup. Yeah, another thing that we'll have to do is add a new activity in the manifest file. So I'm going to add it over here in the manifest file, activity, second activity, and close the tag. Okay. In the second activity, as we saw, we just wanted a text view over here. So I'm just simply going to create a text view over here. So we are just done with the second activity and we can go ahead with the first one then. So I'm going to drag a text view over here. Okay, set its constraint. So I'm just going to set the constraints over here. Go to my XML coding and I'm going to say text view show data. Okay. For this text view right now I don't want anything to be visible. Whenever someone is loading, then the data should be visible away. Okay, so I'm done with my second activity XML part. We'll go ahead with our main activity, and first of all what we are going to do is we are going to design our UI part, and then we are going to go with the intent and how we can pass the data using the intents. So first of all I'm going to create a text view over here. Okay, for this then I'm going to have to edit text. So text, plain text, I'm going to drag to edit text over here. Okay, just let us finish this ID and everything over here. So I'm just going to call this as text view title. I'm going to write over here event registration page. Then I'm going to call this as okay, we have two edit text over here. So which one is which, we'll see that. Okay, so for this edit text, first of all I'm going to go over here and give a hint. So I'm going to call this as enter username. Going to go back, take out the text value so that my hint is visible. The same thing I'm going to go do with the next one as well. I'm going to write over here hint and I'm going to say um, enter email ID, going to go back and take out this text value. So my email ID, this hint is visible over here. Now going back in my coding part, now I can see which edit text is for which. So I'm going to change this ID to ID email ID. So text value or hint value is just what is displayed to the user on UI. ID is something which we are going to use as reference in our Java file. Here I'm going to change this to edit text and I'm going to call this as username. Okay. So we are done with this part. We'll be setting the constraints. Just let me drag and drop a few more things. Then the next thing that we had over here is if I wanted to select whether I wanted a morning session or evening session. So a user can choose only either of one. Both of the things are not allowed over here for our case. So I'm going to use something called as a radio group first. So I'm going to drag a radio group over here. Its layout, height and width can be wrap content, but I'm going to include one property over here, that is a background color. Now why I'm doing this is because sometimes applying constraints becomes difficult over here in case of the radio group, since my radio buttons are inside it, and or you can just give over here some padding so we are able to see that radio group basically. Or what I'll do is first let me drag the radio group radio buttons and show you why exactly I'm trying to do this. So I'm going to close my radio tag group tag over here. Inside this I'm going to have my radio buttons. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to drag two radio buttons now. So this is my first radio button and I'm going to drag one more. So I'm going to drag one more over here. This is my radio button. Okay. We'll go back to our coding and both of these radio buttons now I'm just going to copy paste them and I'm going to insert it inside my radio group. Okay, so my radio group tag is closing over here. Oh, I just copied it. I wanted to cut it. Okay, we are done with this. Now we'll give the text value to our radio button. So I'm going to call this as morning. This is going to be my evening. Okay. Now if you can see over here, if I go back, see this radio, now radio group is there over here, but I'm not able to, if I try to do the constraints or anything, this will just move away. So if I go back over here, so if you can see one radio button has come out of this radio group tag. Okay, so to avoid any of such things and to give the constraints together, what I'm going to do is for the visibility of the radio group basically, I'm going to give a color and some padding to this. So I'm going to just say background color black for now. We are going to take it out ultimately, and I can just give some padding over here. So I'm just going to give padding of say 30 dp for now. Now if you can see over here, see now this is where my radio buttons are there. So now they are together. Okay, if I have to apply the constraints, I can use them properly. But what in the previous view which I had shown you, the radio buttons were besides each other. So what we can do is we can right click over here, click on linear layout and convert the orientation to horizontal. So if you can now see, my radio buttons are besides each other. So yeah, so this part we are done with that. Now after this, what I wanted is I wanted the checkboxes. So for checkboxes, I am going to drag and drop the checkbox over here. So this is my checkbox. This is my first checkbox. This is, I'm going to drag in one more checkbox over here. Okay. Now for this checkbox, okay, and we'll drag a button also. Then we'll go ahead with check. Okay. So our basic the layout is ready. Now if I try to select all this, okay, and I'm going to do align horizontally, okay, and then I'm going to right click on them, all of them, and I'm going to say chain, create a vertical chain. In that case, if you see, my checkboxes have moved away from each other. What I want is I want the checkboxes also besides each other. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to do Control Z over here. I have taken out all the constraints. I go back over here, and for this checkboxes, I'm going to put them in linear layout. The entire view also you can design using the linear layout. Okay, that is not a problem. I'm just comfortable with constraint layout, so I'm going ahead with this. So it's wrap content over here. We'll close the linear layout tag over here. Okay, and both of these checkboxes, they can be inside this linear layout now. Okay, and for this linear layout, I'm going to give its orientation to be horizontal, so my checkboxes can be besides each other. Fine. Yeah, before that we'll also give this checkboxes ID, so that when we give constraints the errors don't come, because like if the IDs change later on, then whatever the constraints are applied, you will be getting an error like the bottom of something is some other name. So I'll just call this as checkbox lunch, and the text will be lunch over here. I'm going to call this as checkbox networking, and the text value is going to be networking over here. Okay, this button I'm going to say as button register, and this text value is going to be register over here. Okay, so we are done with our all naming and everything. Now if you can see, my this has gone ahead. Okay, so for this also what we are going to do is, see now even this is also together, right? If I'm trying to move over here, only my networking on lunch is getting dragged separately, and it's also changing over here in the code, so my checkbox is coming outside the linear layout. So for this, what again I'm going to do is, I'm going to put it inside the linear layout, and for linear layout also I'm going to just set this background as black for now. Okay, and I'm going to give it some padding so that the visibility is there when I'm trying to apply the constraints, and then we can take it out. Okay, so we have the visibility here. I'm going to select this entire linear layout and I'm going to get it down. Okay, so we are done. I'm going to select all of them, align horizontally. I'm going to right click over here and chains, create a vertical chain so we can easily apply the constraints. And I'm also going to say distribute vertically, so proper distance is maintained. Yeah, now this event registration, I'm just going to increase its text size a little bit. So I'm going to say this size, I want it as say 24 SP, and then this part which is there, so I'm going to take out the color. Now I'm done with the coloring part, so I can take out my background. So radio group background we can take out. Similarly, we can take out our linear layout background as well. So now if you can see, we have the proper visibility over here, everything is done. Still we have few errors over here, we'll just deal with them. So the errors that you can see over here is the edit text, email ID, username, the target size is too small. So whenever someone is going to click on them, there is a possibility that they might not be able to select it. So your target size is too small. So for that, what we can do is, we can go and increase the text size for this. So email ID and username, so we can have one more option over here, that is a text size, and let us call it let us say this is also 24 SP. Same thing, I'm going to do it for other edit text as well. So here also I'm going to call it as 24 SP. So now if you can see, we don't have those errors anymore. Okay, this hard coded text, because I haven't put it in the string file, so this will keep it as it is for now. Okay, we are good to go ahead with our Java file now. So in Java file, the first thing that we'll have to do is, whatever are the components that we have created, we have to create the IDs for that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and create the IDs. So what do we have? First of all, we have two edit text. So I'm just going to go over here, I'm going to say edit text, edit, or we'll just call it as ed username, comma ed, what is going to be the other thing that we have, that is the email ID. Then the next thing that we have is the radio group. So I'm going to declare this as radio group, and rd. For what purpose do we have the radio group over here? So we have the radio group over here for evening and morning session. So I'm just going to call it as session. Then the next thing that we have over here is we have the radio buttons. So I'm going to declare the radio button, and I'm going to say radio button morning, and we are going to have radio button evening. Then the next thing that we have over here is a checkbox. So I'm going to say checkbox, and I'm going to say ch, and this is going to be my, now the checkboxes that we have, that is for the networking and lunch part. So I'm going to say ch networking, and ch lunch. Okay, what other thing that do we have? We have a button. So we have a button over here, and we'll just call it as register. That's it. So we are done with declaring all the components that we have over here. The next part is give its reference to XML. So that's using find view by ID. So ed username, that is equal to find view by ID r.id dot what it was. So edit text username. So always give some proper names over here. So whenever you are trying to find, it shouldn't be confusion. So please avoid giving the names like username edit text 1, edit text 2, because that might create a confusion. Then the next thing that we have over here is oh, I have typecasted it with button. I'm so sorry. Here it should be edit text. Okay. Then the next thing that we have over here is ed email ID. So I'm just calling this as find view by ID r.id dot and email ID, and again we'll typecast it to edit text. The next thing that we have over here is a radio group. So what it was, rd session is equal to find view by ID r.id dot the radio group. So I'm going calling it as radio group. We didn't give any ID over here for the radio group, it's just radio group 2. Then I'm typecasting with rd group. So we'll check it once. Radio group, I didn't give any other, so it's radio group 2 only, so our ID is right. Then the next thing that we have over here is this radio button. So that is rb morning is equal to find view by ID r.id dot, and we will call it as what was the name that we have given over here? Oh, I didn't name it. The IDs I just gave is radio button 1. So this I'll just say radio button M and radio button E for now. Okay, the same thing we'll include over here. So this was radio button M for morning, and typecast it. And for evening, so it was RB evening is equal to find view by ID, and we'll call this as r.id dot, I'll call this as radio button E. Okay, and again typecast this. This just takes some time, but we should be getting done with this quickly. Then we have the ch networking, again find view by ID r.id dot, and you can call this as networking. So checkbox networking, typecast it. Then we have ch lunch and find view by ID r.id dot lunch. Okay, what else is remaining is a button. So we have this button register is equal to find view by ID again r.id dot, and we have button register, and typecast it to button. Okay, so we are done declaring all the references. Now what I want is on click of button register, we should be able to go to the next activity with whatever is the data that is there in all these fields. So I'll say button register dot set on click listener new space view dot on click listener, and our code is going to come over here. Okay, So inside this, first of all, what I'll have to do is I'll have to extract the data from all the fields. So first of all, I'll have to extract the username. So I'm going to declare this as string username is equal to, from where do I have to extract the data? From edit text username. So ed username dot get text dot. So this is just the character sequence that we are going to get over here in get text. So we'll have to convert it to string. So dot to string. Then we have string email id. So I'm just going to call this as email id is equal to ed email id dot get text dot to string. You can name it in this way. Then the next thing that we have over here is that I want to get the data from the radio buttons. So I want to check over here like what is the session that is going on, whether it is morning session or the evening session. So how I can do that? I can store it in session over here. So I'm going to create a variable called as session. That is a string variable, and I'm going to keep it as empty right now. Okay. Now after this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a if else over here. So I'm going to say if some condition is true over here, then the session value should be equal to morning, else if some other value is true over here, then the session value should be equal to evening. Okay. So with this, yeah, we are done with this. So now what is the value that I want over here? So that is, if my radio button morning is checked, okay, in that case the session value should be morning. If my radio button evening is checked, then the session value should be evening. Fine. So I am done with my radio button part. Now I want to have the checkbox. So the checkbox, it gives a value as boolean, true or false. So I'm going to use a boolean variable over here. So boolean has lunch is equal to my checkbox value. So ch.lunch dot is checked. So if the answer is true or false, so whatever is the value, it's going to be coming over here in the boolean part. Okay. The same thing I'm going to do over here for the next one, that is has networking selected. So I'm going to write over networking is equal to ch networking dot is checked. Okay. So true or false, that value is going to come over here. Okay. Now what I want to do is I have to create an intent. So I'm going to create an intent over here first of all. Intent I. The class is not imported, so import the class. When you are importing, you would be getting the package over here, that is import android.content.intent. Okay. Intent I is equal to new intent. Then with this, what is my current context? So that is main activity dot this. What is my target activity? Second activity dot class. What I want to do is start intent. So start activity I. Okay. Now this part will start my intent, but before the new screen is loaded or the new activity is started, what I have to do is I have to pass the data with this intent. So I can do that using the PutExtra method. So I'll write over here I dot PutExtra. So this gives us a value in key value pair. So first of all, I have to set a value key over here. So the key for this is username. For the username, what is the value that I want to pass over here? So that is this username I want to pass. So I'm going to pass over here username. The same thing I'm going to do for other fields as well. So I'm going to say if the key for my email ID, that is email ID, and I'm passing over here what? I'm passing the email ID. Then I dot put extra. What is the next value that I want to pass? I want to pass the session value. What is the session that has been selected? We'll put this in, this is a key, so key value we'll have to put it over here in the quotes, comma, what is the value that I want to put over here? Session. Okay. Then the next thing that I want to pass is whether what is a check value that has been selected. So whether has lunch or has networking, if it has been selected or no. So I'm going to say has um, lunch, that is a key, and even the value is also has lunch. So the boolean value will be set over here. And again, what is the last value that we had? So has network, we'll just write network, and what is the value? Has networking. So I'll be selecting this. So we are done with our extra values. So all these values are going to be passed now to the next screen. So now if we are going to pass, we also have to receive the values, right? So we'll be going over here in our second activity. And for the second activity, to get the values, I'm going to use something called as GetExtra. So here it was PutExtra. Now to get the values, we are going to use GetExtra over here, or extract the IDs. So here in my second activity, inside my onCreate method, first of all, where am I displaying the data in my second activity? So we have already created a text view over here, okay, which we have named as textView.shown. So we'll have to create a variable for this. So I'm going to write over here text view. I'm going to name this as textView.show is equal to okay, we'll just say this. Then we'll do over here textView.show is equal to find view by id r.id. We have text view show data, and we are going to typecast it. So we are going to typecast it to text view. Fine. We are done with this. Now the next part that we have is I want to set some data on this text view. Now what is the data that I want to set? So whatever is this data that is coming from this main activity. So I'm going to write over here string username is equal to get intent dot get string extra, get string extra, and here I'm going to give what is the key. So what was the first key that we have passed over here? Username. So this is the value I'm going to paste over here. The same thing we have to do for all the other values as well. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to write over here pass email ID, and what is the value that we have passed over here? So that is email ID. Then what was the next thing that we had? So we have this for 5 things. We have the next thing that is for the session. So I'm going to call this as session, and here also the key was also session. Then the next thing that we have over here, that is boolean has lunch, or this is a boolean value, right? So we'll be declaring this as boolean, and what it was, so has lunch is equal to get intent dot get boolean extra. Now since it's a boolean value, what we are going to use is boolean extra. Here we are going to give the key. What was the key that we have? The key was has lunch. So I'm going to write over here has lunch, the same key. Okay, whatever is the key that we have given over here, I'm using the same key. Okay, now has lunch, the default value we have to give after this. So the default value I'm giving is false. Okay, that means no one has selected the checkbox. If someone has selected, then we should get true over here. Okay, then I'm giving over here boolean has networking is equal to get intent dot get boolean extra. Here we have what is the key that we have passed over here. The key was has network, so I'm copying this has network, and the same key I'm pasting it over here, comma the default value over here also I'm going to give as false. That is, no one has selected the checkbox. If someone has selected, then the value should be true. Okay. So how this false and true value is going to be used, I'll show it to you over here. So we are going to give over here something called a string confirmation message. That is going to be what we are going to write over here is username, then plus what is value that we are going to give over here, that was again over here username, plus \n, we are going to write over here email id. Okay, plus what is the value that we had given over here for email id, the variable we are going to give over here, plus again \n, and I'm going to write over here session selected. Okay, and the session selected, and I'm going to give over here session. The next thing that we have is a boolean lunch, so whether lunch has been selected or no. So I'm going to write over here lunch. We can have over here also \n for going to the new line. And after this, what I'm going to write over here is, you can pay attention over here. So this has lunch variable, okay, has lunch. So I'm going to use my ternary operator over here, and I'm going to say if it's selected, then give the value as yes, else give the value as no. So this is how we have made the use of the boolean variable over here. Plus finally, even for the networking, we are going to say the same thing. So I'm going to say \n networking, and I'm going to write over here plus, and I'm going to say has networking. If this has been selected, then again I'm going to use a ternary operator over here, and I'm going to say, then say the value is yes, else say the value is no. So if it is true, that means if someone has checked it, then I'm going to get the value as yes, otherwise no. So that's why we have given the default value as false over here. So we are done with this. What part have I missed over here? Yeah, \n. So we have one error over here. We'll just see what is the error. Expected colon. Oh, I missed the colon over here. Fine. So we are done with our errors. Now we have this confirmation message. We want to set it on this particular text view. So I'm going to use text view dot show dot set text, and what is the text that I want to set over here? This confirmation message. So I'm going to say confirmation message. That's it. So we are all done with our code now. We'll run this application and see how it is working. The Gradle building might take just some time. So if you want, you can also run it on your device as well. So you can pair your device using Wi-Fi or USB and see if it's running. Else, also just ensure your developer mode is on if you want to run it on your device. Yeah, the app is launching on the device. We'll see the output. So we'll see the output. The installation is successfully finished. So our app is running now. So I'll enter some data over here. Again, I'll say Lena. I'll just say ln@gmail.com for example. I'll select the morning session. I'll say lunch and networking and register, and I'm able to go successfully to the next page. So that was all for our session today. I hope you have learned about the basics of the intent, how do you send the data from one page to another, also how do you create the basic components. Thank you so much. We will be meeting again in the next session.